The Triple Soul Forces. Book 7, the Book of Yoga, Canto 4, page 503. So the last canto was the entry into the inner countries, where Savitri traveled into the inner planes of consciousness. This one, she comes towards the end. There was no sound to break the brooding hush. One felt the silent nearness of the soul. So she goes into a space and into the next realm, and this is called the Triple Soul Forces. Here, from a low and prone and listless ground, the passion of the first ascent began. A moon-bright face in a somber cloud of hair, a woman sat in a pale, lustrous robe. So the first ascent where she meets the triple soul forces began, and Savitri sees a woman sitting in a pale, lustrous robe. A rugged and ragged soil was her bare seat. Beneath her feet, a sharp and wounding stone, a divine pity on the peaks of the world, a spirit touched by the grief of all that lives. She looked out far and saw, from inner mind, this questionable world of outward things, of false appearances and plausible shapes, this dubious cosmos stretched in the ignorant void. The pangs of earth, the toil and speed of the stars, and the difficult birth and the dolorous end of life, accepting the universe as her body of woe, the mother of the seven sorrows bore the seven stabs that pierced her bleeding heart. So this woman who sat in a pale, lustrous robe, with a wounding stone beneath her feet, was a spirit that was touched by the grief of all that lives. And she looked out at this questionable world of outward things and felt the pangs of earth, the toil, the speed of stars. The mother of the seven sorrows, the first soul force that Savitri meets, is the mother of the seven sorrows, the seven stabs that pierced her bleeding heart. The beauty of sadness lingered on her face. Her eyes were dim with the ancient stain of tears. Her heart was riven with the world's agony and burdened with the sorrow and struggle in time. An anguished music trailed in her rapt voice. Absorbed in a deep compassion's ecstasy, lifting the mild ray of her patient gaze, in soft, sweet, training words, slowly she spoke. So this first soul force, the mother of the seven sorrows, she is that force that Savitri meets, this who absorbs and takes in and feels the pain and the beauty of sadness and the world's agony. Her heart was riven with the world's agony and burdened with the sorrow and struggle in time. And now this voice, this woman, speaks to Savitri. So what does she tell Savitri, this first soul force? O Savitri, I am thy secret soul. To share the suffering of the world I came. I draw my children's pangs into my breast. I am the nurse of the dollar beneath the stars. So actually, the suffering that the world is going through, and human life and human beings are going through, if that wasn't shared by a goddess, a soul form, human beings couldn't bear that. So those who feel that, it is something that the divine is above it or does not partake of it, that is not true. So this soul force speaks to Savitri and says, I am thy secret soul. To share the suffering of the world I came. I draw my children's pangs into my breast. I am the nurse of the dollar beneath the stars. I am the soul of all who wailing writhe under the ruthless harrow of the gods. I am woman, nurse, and slave, and beaten beast, I tend the hand that gave me cruel blows. The hearts that spurned my love and zeal I serve. I am the courted queen, the pampered doll. I am the giver of the bowl of rice. I am the worshipped angel of the house. I am in all that suffers and that cries. Mine is the prayer that climbs in vain from earth. I am traversed by my creatures' agonies. I am the spirit in a world of pain. The scream of tortured flesh and tortured hearts, fallen and back on heart and flesh, unheard by heaven, has rent with helpless grief and wrought my soul. I have seen the peasant burning in his hut. I have seen the slashed corpse of the slaughtered child, heard woman's cry ravished and stripped and healed amid the bayings of the hell-hound mob. I have looked on. I had no power to save. I have brought no arm of strength to aid or slay. God gave me love. He gave me not his force. I have shared the toil of the yoked animal drudge, pushed by the goad, encouraged by the whip. I have shared the fear-filled life of bird and beast, its long hunt for the day's precarious food, its covert slink and crouch and hungry prowl, its pain and terror seized by beak and claw. I have shared the daily life of common men, its petty pleasures and its petty cares, its press of troubles and haggard horde of ills, earth's trail of sorrow, hopeless of relief, the unwanted tedious labor without joy, and the burden of misery and the strokes of fate. I have been pity, leaning over pain, and the tender smile that heals the wounded heart, and sympathy making life less hard to bear. Man has felt near my unseen face and hands. Man has felt near my unseen face and hands. I have become the sufferer and his moan. I have lain down with the mangled and the slain. I have lived with the prisoner in his dungeon cell. Heavy on my shoulders weighs the yoke of time, nothing refusing of creation's load. I have borne all, and know I still must bear. Perhaps when the world sinks into a last sleep, I too may sleep in dumb eternal peace. I have borne the calm indifference of heaven, watched nature's cruelty to suffering things, while God passed silent by, nor turned to help. Yet have I cried not out against his will, yet have I not accused his cosmic law, only to change this great, hard world of pain. A patient prayer has risen from my breast. A pallid resignation lights my brow. Within me a blind faith and mercy dwell. I carry the fire that never can be quenched, and the compassion that supports the suns. I am the hope that looks towards my God who never came to me till now. His voice I hear that ever says, I come. I know that one day he shall come at last. She ceased. and like an echo from below, answering her pathos of divine complaint, a voice of wrath took up the dire refrain. A growl of thunder or roar of angry beast, the beast that crouching growls within man's depths, voice of a tortured titan, once a god. So, just to give some understanding and perspective, um, the first woman or voice or soul of that Savitri meets, these are her own soul forces. These are the higher parts of her being that she meets, and when she goes within. And the first soul force tells her that I am the goddess that absorbs all pain and suffering and bears and makes life and shares in the burden of human life, animal life, plant life, all suffering, all pain, and have had to suffer through eons of this. I have called down the divine, but I have not been able to. I do not have force. I have love, but I do not have the might and the power to bring that down. So these are the different parts, the goddesses that are at the moment upbearing the earth life, earth nature, the para prakriti, the goddesses that the mother and maybe Sri Aurobindo also speaks of in the book The Mother. But the problem is that these goddesses are not integrated so far, they are separated. So she will meet the three soul forces: the mother of love, compassion, and pity, the mother of might, power without love, the mother of light, knowledge without. So each one is separated. In a sense, Savitri is there as an incarnation, so to speak, to bring together these forms and these soul forces so that each one is completed in the other, unless they are completed in the new consciousness, which is non-separate, non-divisive, as you read in The Life Divine. The triple transformation and the importance of the supermind. Unless the separation goes, earth life cannot be changed. And along with earth life, the suffering of these goddesses and beings and forces that embody and, in a sense, you could say the earth mother is suffering. There are many, many philosophies. The Gaia philosophy, the Holocaust of the mother, so many things that you feel that the earth is suffering. So the earth consciousness, which is in all beings. Now, this is a reference to that. And yet, in man, in the human being, there is this lower form of this higher goddess. There is this lower form of this soul form. And what is that? The man of sorrows. So this is also the degraded, or what should I say, inverse form. We read it. Now you listen quietly. It's a little not so easy to understand at the first go, but just listen. So the beast that crouching growls within man's depths, voice of a tortured titan, once a god. Understand that. This man of sorrows was once a god and now is a tortured titan, which is an asura, almost like an asuric force. And this resides in us as human beings. We have it. Now it will explain to us what is this man of sorrows in all of us. And you will be able to recognize your man of sorrows when you hear this description. And next time your man of sorrows starts speaking, you will be able to know that this is the man of sorrows that is speaking in you. Okay? This is the value of Savitri. Now, I know that one day he shall come at last. She ceased, and like an echo from below, answering her pathos of divine complaint, a voice of wrath took up the dire refrain, a growl of thunder or roar of angry beast, the beast that crouching growls within man's depths, voice of a tortured titan, once a god. I am the man of sorrows. I am he who is nailed on the wide cross of the universe. To enjoy my agony, God built the earth. My passion he has made his drama's theme. He has sent me naked into his bitter world and beaten me with his rods of grief and pain, that I might cry and grovel at his feet and offer him worship with my blood and tears. I am Prometheus under the vulture's beak, man the discoverer of the undying fire. In the flame he kindled, burning like a moth, I am the seeker who can never find. I am the fighter who can never win. I am the runner who never touched his goal. Hell tortures me with the edges of my thought. Heaven tortures me with the splendor of my dreams. What profit have I of my animal birth? What profit have I of my human soul? I toil like the animal die. I am man the rebel, man the helpless serf. Fate and my fellows cheat me of my wage. I loosen with my blood my servitude's seal, and shake from my aching neck the oppressor's knees, only to seat new tyrants on my back. My teachers lesson me in slavery. I am shown God's stamp and my own signature upon the sorry contract of my fate. I have loved, but none has loved me since my birth. My fruit of works is given to other hands. All that is left me is my evil thoughts, my sordid quarrel against God and man, envy of the riches that I cannot share, hate of a happiness that is not mine. I know my fate will ever be the same. It is my nature's work that cannot change. I have loved for mine, not for the beloved's sake. I have lived for myself, and not for others' lives. Each in himself is soul by nature's law. So God has made his harsh and dreadful world. So has he built the petty heart of man. Only by force and ruse can man survive. For pity is a weakness in his breast. His goodness is a laxity in the nerves. His kindness an investment for return. His altruism is ego's other face. He serves the world that him the world may serve. If once the Titan strength could waken me, if Enceladus from Etna could arise, I then would reign the master of the world, and like a god enjoy man's bliss and pain. So if once the Titan strength could waken me, I then would reign the master of the world, and like a god enjoy man's bliss and pain. God has taken from me the ancient force. There is a dull consent in my sluggish heart, a fierce satisfaction with my special pangs. And if they made me taller than my kind, only by suffering can I excel. I am the victim of titanic ills. I am the doer of demoniac deeds. I was made for evil. Evil is my lot. Evil I must be, and by evil live. Naught other can I do but be myself. What nature made me, that I must remain. I suffer and toil and weep. I moan and hate. And Savitri heard the voice, the echo heard, and turning to her being of pity spoke. Madonna of Suffering, Mother of Grief Divine. Savitri hears this warped echo in the human consciousness, but then she turns to this Madonna of Suffering and the Mother of Grief Divine, and she speaks to that soul. So both this, the mother, the soul force, and warped echo, both are asking for what? If I could have the Titan's strength, they're asking for the might. They both need, but one wanted it so that she could heal the world, and the other wants it so that he could revel in the world's pain and enjoy it like a god. So there are two different reasons why they want it. And that is the distinction between the two. So this is a very interesting chapter. Um, this is the archetype. Represents all the, whenever we moan and groan and blame other people for our misery, blame life, blame this, blame that, or we moan in our own sorrows, delight in our own suffering, that is the man of sorrows in us. You understand? This is the archetype. This is from where all this comes from. Now, Sri Aurobindo has some very amusing, interesting correspondence with Nirodha on the subject of man of sorrows, where Nirodha used to keep wailing and telling him, Sire, sir, when will I have any realization? I am now suffering, I am in the old consciousness, my cells are not deified, they are teified. All I'm doing is drinking tea and going on about my life. And he would keep writing letter after letter. So Sri Aurobindo wrote back, you have the man of sorrows very, very strongly in you. You better, be aware of it and focus on it, become conscious of it. So this is a whole correspondence on the man of sorrows. You can read it in Nirodharan's correspondence with Sri Aurobindo. So the echo of the first Madonna was the man of sorrows. There is an interpretation that the man of sorrows is a representation of the tamasic ego in us. So the three echoes are the three egos: the tamasic ego, the rajasic ego, and the sattvic ego. So the higher Madonna is the mother form, the goddess from the overmental plane. As you know, the gods reside in the overmind. So the first Madonna is the Madonna of pity, compassion, the Madonna that takes over all the pain and suffering in the world. And as you see, for each Madonna, they say, I am your secret soul. So these are the overmental gods. They are the secret soul of the inner being of the gods. The lower part of that is the ego part, which is in the form of the echo, the warped echo. First, you have to understand the structure of the canto. So, only by suffering can I excel. I am the victim of titanic ills. So this is the victim ego. Tamasic ego always behaves, the nature of the tamasic ego is in us and in human beings, in the human consciousness, is that it always believes itself to be the victim. That everybody else is the perpetrator of all wrongs and ills. And I, poor me, have to suffer it all. So, and Savitri heard the voice, the echo heard, and turning to her being of pity spoke. So then she hears both the Madonna and the echo, and then she tells the Madonna, Madonna of suffering, mother of grief divine, thou art a portion of my soul put forth to bear the unbearable sorrow of the world. Because thou art, men yield not to their doom, but ask for happiness and strive with fate. Because thou art, the wretched still can hope, but thine is the power to solace, not to save. One day I will return, a bringer of strength, and make thee drink from the eternal's cup. Where she says, the world shall be freed from the anger of the beast, from the cruelty of the Titan and his pain. There shall be peace and joy forevermore. On past she in her spirit's upward route. An ardent grandeur climbed mid ferns and rocks. A quiet wind flattered the heart to warmth. A finer perfume breathed from slender trees. All beautiful grew, subtle and high and strange. Here on a boulder carved like a huge throne, a woman sat in gold and purple sheen, armed with the trident and the thunderbolt, her feet upon a couchant lion's back. So here on a boulder carved like a huge throne, a woman sat in gold and purple sheen, armed with the trident and the thunderbolt, her feet upon a couchant lion's back. A formidable smile curved round her lips. Heaven fire laughed in the corners of her eyes. Her body a mass of courage and heavenly strength. She menaced the triumph of the nether gods. What is this picture? When you hear it, what do you immediately see in front of you? So it's Mother Durga. No, you see the Mother Durga. And the Madonna of Might is Mother Durga. Now the thing about Mother Durga is that why these gods and goddesses, they reside and have their prototypes in the overmental plane, in the overmind. So this is actually that Savitri, when she's traveling, she's actually somewhere near that zone. A woman sat in gold and purple sheen, armed with the trident and the thunderbolt, her feet upon a couchant lion's back. A formidable smile curved round her lips. Heaven fire laughed in the corners of her eyes, her body a mass of courage and heavenly strength. She menaced the triumph of the nether gods. A halo of lightnings flamed around her head, and sovereignty, a great cestus zoned her robe, and majesty and victory sat with her, guarding in the wide cosmic battlefield against the flat equality of death and the all-leveling insurgent night, the hierarchy of the ordered powers, the high changeless values, the peaked eminences, the privileged aristocracy of truth, and in the governing ideal sun, the triumvirate of wisdom, love, and bliss, and the sole autocracy of the absolute light. So here is this woman who sits in this way and with the triumvirate of wisdom, love, and bliss, and the sole autocracy of the absolute light. August on her seat in the inner world of mind. August on her seat in the inner world of mind. The mother of might looked down on passing things, listened to the advancing tread of time, saw the irresistible wheeling of the suns, and heard the thunder of the march of God. Amid the swaying forces in their strife, sovereign was her word of luminous command. Her speech, like a war cry, rang, or a pilgrim chant, a charm restoring hope in failing hearts, aspired the harmony of her puissant voice. O Savitri, now the Mother of Might speaks to Savitri. O Savitri, I am thy secret soul. I have come down into the human world, and the movement watched by an unsleeping eye, and the dark contrariety of earth's fate, and the battle of the bright and somber powers. I stand upon earth's paths of danger and grief, and help the unfortunate and save the doomed. To the strong I bring the guerdon of their strength, to the weak I bring the armor of my force. To men who long I carry their coveted joy. I am fortune, justifying the great and wise. I am fortune, justifying the great and wise by the sanction of the plaudits of the crowd, then trampling them with the armed heel of fate. My ear is leaned to the cry of the oppressed. I topple down the thrones of tyrant kings. A cry comes from proscribed and hunted lives, appealing to me against a pitiless world. A voice of the forsaken and desolate, and the lone prisoner in his dungeon cell. Men hail in my coming the Almighty's force, or praise with thankful tears His Saviour grace. I smite the Titan who bestrides the world, and slay the ogre in his blood-stained den. I am Durga, goddess of the proud and strong, and Lakshmi, queen of the fair and fortunate. I wear the face of Kali when I kill. I trample the corpses of the demon hordes. I am charged by God to do His mighty work. Uncaring I serve His will, who sent me forth. Reckless of peril and earthly consequence, I reason not of virtue and of sin. but do the deed he has put into my heart. I fear not for the angry frown of heaven. I flinch not from the red assault of hell. I crush the opposition of the gods, tread down a million goblin obstacles. Note the word goblin obstacles. So you see who makes all your obstacles? They're little goblins who wander around creating our obstacles for us. Tread down a million goblin obstacles. I guide man to the path of the divine and guard him from the red wolf and the snake. I set in his mortal hand my heavenly sword and put on him the breastplate of the gods. I break the ignorant pride of human mind and lead the thought to the wideness of the truth. I rend man's narrow and successful life and force his sorrowful eyes to gaze at the sun, that he may die to earth and live in his soul. I know the goal. I know the secret route. I have studied the map of the invisible worlds. I am the battle's head, the journey's star, but the great obstinate world resists my word, and the crookedness and evil in man's heart is stronger than reason, profounder than the pit, and the malignancy of hostile powers puts craftily back the clock of destiny, and mightier seems than the eternal will. The cosmic evil is too deep to unroot. The cosmic suffering is too vast to heal. A few I guide who pass me towards the light. A few I save. The mass falls back unsaved. A few I help. The many strive and fail. But my heart I have hardened, and I do my work. Slowly the light grows, greater in the east. Slowly the world progresses on God's road. His seal is on my task, it cannot fail. I shall hear the silver swing of heaven's gates when God comes out to meet the soul of the world. I shall hear the silver swing of heaven's gates when God comes out to meet the soul of the world. She spoke, and from the lower human world, an answer, a warped echo, met her speech. So here she completes the Madonna of Might, Shri Mahadurga. She finishes what she has to say. And then from the lower world, there is a warped echo that meets her speech. What is this warped echo? This could be the vital ego, Rajasic ego in man. The voice came through the spaces of the mind of the dwarf titan, the deformed, chained god who strives to master his nature's rebel stuff and make the universe his instrument. The ego of this great world of desire claimed earth and the wide heavens for the use of man. Head of the life it shapes on earth, its representative and conscious soul, and symbol of evolving light and force, and vessel of the Godhead that must be. A thinking animal nature struggling Lord has made of her his nurse and tool and slave, and pays to her his wage and emolument, inescapably by a deep law in things, his heart's grief and his body's death and pain. His pains are her means to grow, to see and feel. His death assists her immortality. So this ego of this great world desire, this warped voice, is actually has has made her his nurse, has made nature his nurse, and tool and slave, and pays to her his wage and emolument, inescapably by a deep law in things. His heart's grief and his body's death and pain are the wages and emoluments he pays nature to, so that he may grow and see and feel. His pains are her means to grow, to see and feel, so that through his pains nature grows and sees and feels. His death assists her immortality. A tool and slave of his own slave and tool. A tool and slave of his own slave and tool. He praises his free will and his mastermind, and is pushed by her upon her chosen paths. Possessor, he is possessed, and ruler, ruled. Her conscious automaton, her desires dupe, his soul is her guest, a sovereign mute inert, his body her robot, his life her way to live, his conscious mind her strong revolted serf. The voice rose up and smote some inner sun. Now this voice, the warped echo, speaks to Savitri. The voice rose up and smote some inner sun. And what does he say? I am the heir of the forces of the earth. Slowly I make good my right to my estate. A growing Godhead in her divinized mud, I climb, a claimant to the throne of heaven. The last born of the earth, I stand the first. Her slow millenniums waited for my birth. Although I live in time, besieged by death, precarious owner of my body and soul, housed on a little speck amid the stars, for me and my use, the universe was made. So this warped, this echo, this particular, he says that even though I live on earth and I live in time besieged by death, and I'm a precarious owner of my body and soul because it disappears. Yet, for me and my use, the universe was made. So this is how the vital ego, the rajasic ego, the warped, the desire, ego of the world's desire. It's actually even a bigger than I would say the vital ego of the world operates. It operates with this notion. Its very intrinsic nature is that it believes that the whole universe has been made for his desire, for its own pleasure and accomplishment. Slowly I make good my right to my estate, a growing Godhead in her divinized mud. I climb a claimant to the throne of heaven. The last born of the earth, I stand the first. Her slow millenniums waited for my birth. Although I live in time besieged by death, precarious owner of my body and soul, housed on a little speck amid the stars, for me and my use the universe was made. Immortal spirit in the perishing clay, I am God still, unevolved in human form. Even if he is not, he becomes in me. The sun and the moon are lights upon my path. Air was invented for my lungs to breathe, conditioned as a wide and wall-less space for my winged chariot's wheels to cleave a road. If you notice the way humanity is behaving, humankind, what are we doing today to the earth? The way that we are destroying the earth in every which way with our rampant misuse of the resources of earth, the fire burning in the fields, the factories emitting emissions, the birds dying, the animals dying, nature being ravaged and raped. And this is exactly why it's happening. Air was invented for my lungs to breathe because we imagine that all of Earth's air was invented for humanity to breathe, for us to breathe, for man to breathe, for that desire ego soul to breathe. It wasn't invented to be shared by other species of nature. That consciousness is not central to this vital ego. And it is this dominant vital ego that is responsible for this rape and ravage of earth. So it is not surprising that it's happening. This is where, if you see the way he speaks, you will try and see the correlation to what is happening in parts of the earth. For me and my use, the universe was made. Immortal spirit in the perishing clay, I am God still unevolved in human form. Even if he is not, he becomes in me. The sun and moon are lights upon my path. Air was invented for my lungs to breathe, conditioned as a wide and wall-less space, for my winged chariot's wheels to cleave a road. Winged chariot's wheels, you know what he's referring to. Winged chariots' wheels to cleave a road, aeroplanes and the emissions of airplanes. For my winged chariot's wheels to cleave a road. The sea was made for me to swim and sail and bear my golden commerce on its back. It laughs, cloven by my pleasure's gliding keel. I laugh at its black stare of fate and death. The earth is my floor, the sky my living's roof. All was prepared through many a silent age. God made experiments with animal shapes. Then only when all was ready, I was born. I was born weak and small and ignorant, a helpless creature in a difficult world, traveling through my brief years with death at my side. I have grown greater than nature, wiser than God. So, traveling through my brief years with death at my side, if you see our human life, who do we have always along with us? Our companion, death. Traveling, how many years do we live? Brief compared to the millenniums of nature, of earth, time that earth is there. Traveling through my brief years with death at my side, I have grown greater than nature, wiser than God. I have made real what she never dreamed. I have seized her powers. Whose powers? Nature's powers. I have seized her powers and harnessed for my work. I have shaped her metals and new metals made. I will make glass and raiment out of milk, make iron, velvet, water, unbreakable stone. Like God, in his astuce of artist's skill, mold from one primal plasm protean forms. In single nature, multitudinous lives, all that imagination can conceive. In mind intangible, remold anew, in matters plastic, solid, and concrete. In matters plastic, solid, and concrete, no magic can surpass my magic skill. There is no miracle I shall not achieve. What God imperfect left, I will complete. Out of a tangled mind and half-made soul, his sin and error I will eliminate. What he invented not, I shall invent. He was the first creator, I am the last. I have found the atoms from which he built the worlds. The first tremendous cosmic energy missioned shall leap to slay my enemy kin. The first tremendous cosmic energy missioned shall leap to slay my enemy kin. Could it be a reference to the atomic bomb? Mission shall sleep to slay my enemy kin, expunge a nation or abolish a race. Death's silence, leave where there was laughter and joy. Or the fissured invisible shall spend God's force to extend my comforts and expand my wealth, to speed my car, which now the lightnings drive. It's a reference to solar energy and battery power. Of course, Sri Aurobindo has seen, prophetically written about it. There was no such things in 1945 happening. But death's silence leave where there was laughter and joy, or the fissured invisible shall spend God's force to extend my comfort and expand my wealth, to speed my car, which now the lightnings drive, and turn the engines of my miracles. I will take his means of sorcery from his hands, and do with them greater wonders than his best. Yet through it all I have kept my balanced thought. I have studied my being. I have examined the world. I have grown a master of the arts of life. I have tamed the wild beast, trained to be my friend. He guards my house, looks up waiting my will. This is a reference to the wolf that was tamed and became the dog, and then the dog guarding the house, and so on. So wonderful poetry, beautiful imagery. To extend my comforts and expand my wealth, to speed my car, which now the lightnings drive and turn the engines of my miracles. I will take his means of sorcery from his hands and do with them greater wonders than his best. Yet through it all I have kept my balanced thought. I have studied my being. I have examined the world. I have grown a master of the arts of life. I have tamed the wild beast, trained to be my friend. He guards my house, looks up waiting my will. I have taught my kind to serve and to obey. I have used the mystery of the cosmic waves to see far distance and to hear far words. I have conquered space and knitted close all earth. Soon I shall know the secrets of the mind. I play with knowledge and with ignorance, and sin and virtue my inventions are. I can transcend or sovereignly use. So sin and virtue my inventions are, which I can transcend or sovereignly use. I shall know mystic truths, seize occult powers. I shall slay my enemies with a look or thought. Now, this is obviously something that is still not as dominant as here, but it is certainly coming up in the future. You see these science fiction films nowadays that children watch. They slay their enemies with a look or thought. So this is going to come as it's a faculty that is there, which you can bring into your consciousness. You can see things, hear things, clairvoyance, clairaudience, these are all occult powers. So this is what he's saying here. I play with knowledge and with ignorance, and sin and virtue my inventions are. I can transcend or sovereignly use. I shall know mystic truths, seize occult powers. I shall slay my enemies. These are the occult powers, mystic truths. I shall slay my enemies with a look or thought. Now that's interesting. You don't need to use anything. I shall slay my enemies with a look or thought. I shall sense the unspoken feelings of all hearts, and see and hear the hidden thoughts of men. So this is all possible the moment you have the occult power. You can see and hear the hidden thoughts, what you're thinking, the hidden thoughts of men. Already films are depicting them. All these science fiction films, these Batman and Superman and this man and that man, Avengers, all these films that young children are watching. I shall sense the unspoken feelings of all hearts and see and hear the hidden thoughts of men. So this is a kind of precursor. Actually, films always, bring things into, nothing can happen without it actually existing somewhere. So those possibilities are there already. They are still not pervasive in the human civilization because we haven't developed those powers so far. But it is possible. I shall know mystic truths, seize occult powers. I shall slay my enemies with a look or thought. I shall sense the unspoken feelings of all hearts and see and hear the hidden thoughts of men. When earth is mastered, I shall conquer heaven. The gods shall be my aids or menial folk. So no wish I harbor unfulfilled shall die. So every wish that I have, I will fulfill. Omnipotence and omniscience shall be mine. So the last line is, omnipotence and omniscience shall be mine. Close inverted commas. This is the end of the warped ego reply once to Savitri. And Savitri heard the voice, the warped echo heard, so she heard both. Madonna of Might, the voice, and she heard the warped echo. And turning to her being of power, she spoke. Madonna of Might, Mother of works and force, thou art a portion of my soul put forth to help mankind and help the travail of time. Because thou art in him, man hopes and dares. Because thou art, men's souls can climb the heavens and walk like gods in the presence of the Supreme. But without wisdom, power is like a wind. Here, so Savitri is addressing the Madonna. of might, mother of works and force. So if you see, the reference seems to be of might, Durga, and mother of works and force. So it seems to have also the element of Mahasaraswati. So, because thou art, men's souls can climb the heavens and walk like gods in the presence of the Supreme. But without wisdom, power is like a wind. It can breathe upon the heights and kiss the sky. It cannot build the extreme eternal things. Thou hast given men strength. Wisdom thou couldst not give. So Savitri tells the Madonna of Might, mother of works and force, that you have given men strength. Wisdom you could not give. And without wisdom, power is like a wind that breathes upon the sky, but it cannot build the extreme eternal things. So she tells this Madonna, that is her own soul, part of her own soul. These are projections of her own soul. One day I will return, a bringer of light. One day I will return, a bringer of light. Then will I give to thee the mirror of God. Thou shalt see self and world as by him they are seen, reflected in the bright pool of thy soul. Thy wisdom shall be vast as vast thy power. Then hate shall dwell no more in human hearts, and fear and weakness shall desert men's lives. The cry of the ego shall be hushed within. Its lion roar that claims the world as food. All shall be might and bliss and happy force. So the lion roar of the ego claims the world as food. Here you saw the warped ego was more like the rajasic ego, the vital ego. So Savitri is obviously, after the inner country, she comes into the plane of an inner plane that is perhaps close to what we could call the overmental plane. But she goes through the inner route from within. She doesn't ascend above, she goes and from the inner country she comes to these three Madonnas that are actually her secret soul. They are the three Madonnas of herself, but they each one lack something. And she is the integrating power that can embody all three Madonnas together and complement what they lack or give each one what they lack. So now we come to the third. She again goes further up. So she's come to the second Madonna, which is the second tier. And then now she's ascending still, her spirit's upward route. She came into a high and happy space, a wide tower of vision, whence all could be seen, and all was centered in a single view, as when by distance separate scenes grow one, and a harmony is made of hues at war. The wind was still and fragrance packed the air. There was a carol of birds and murmur of bees, and all that is common and natural and sweet, yet intimately divine to heart and soul. A nearness thrilled of the spirit to its source, and deepest things seemed obvious, close and true. Here, living center of that vision of peace, a woman sat in a clear and crystal light. Heaven had unveiled its luster in her eyes. Her feet were moonbeams. Her face was a bright sun. Her smile could persuade a dead, lacerated heart to live again and feel the hands of calm. A low music heard became her floating voice. O Savitri, I am thy secret soul. I have come down to the wounded, desolate earth to heal her pangs and lull her heart to rest. So don't forget, all these Madonnas always say, I have come down to earth. So they're not something, these Madonnas or these mothers or these soul forces are not something that are living in some high altitude of space. Of course, their origin is from a higher plane, but they all have come down to earth. They are active in shaping in the earth nature. They are the mothers of the earth. You could say Mother Earth. They are the forces of the soul of the earth. And each one has something that it deeply feels that it needs to complement and complete itself. However, it is only because their presence is there on earth, in nature, that human life, animal life, all life can bear to exist and does not fall into, it upholds and it carries the sympathy, the love, the compassion, the light, the power, all of that, all three of them carry and nurture the earth. They are the nurturing, upholding forces of the earth. O Savitri, I am thy secret soul. I have come down to the wounded, desolate earth to heal her pangs and lull her heart to rest, and lay her head upon the mother's lap, that she may dream of God and know his peace, and draw the harmony of highest spheres into the rhythm of earth's rude, troubled days. I show to her the figures of bright gods, and bring strength and solace to her struggling life. High things that now are only words and forms, I reveal to her in the body of their power. I am peace that steals into man's war-worn breast. Amid the rain of hell, his acts create. Amid the rain of hell, his acts create a hostel where heaven's messengers can lodge. I am charity with the kindly hands that bless. I am silence mid the noisy tramp of life. I am knowledge poring on her cosmic map. In the anomalies of the human heart, where good and evil are close bedfellows, and light is by darkness dogged at every step, where his largest knowledge is an ignorance, I am the power that labors towards the best, and works for God, and looks up towards the heights. I make even sin and error stepping stones, and all experience a long march towards light. Out of the inconscient, I build consciousness, and lead through death to reach immortal life. So you can see what this Madonna, what her action in the world is, and how she is upholding the world. I am charity with the kindly hands that bless. I am silence mid the noisy tramp of life. I am knowledge poring on her cosmic map. In the anomalies of the human heart, where good and evil are close bedfellows, and light is by darkness dogged at every step, where his largest knowledge is an ignorance, I am the power that labors towards the best, and works for God, and looks up towards the heights. I make even sin and error stepping stones, and all experience a long march towards light. Out of the inconscient, I build consciousness, and lead through death to reach immortal life. Many are God's forms by which he grows in man. They stamp his thoughts and deeds with divinity, uplift the stature of the human clay, or slowly transmute it into heaven's gold. He is the good for which men fight and die. He is the war of right with titan wrong. So he here refers to the many are God's forms by which he grows in man. So these forms of God that grow in man uplift the stature of the human clay and slowly transmute it into heaven's gold. And he is the good for which men fight and die. That divinity, that form in man, that is the growing God. He is the good for which men fight and die. He is the war of right with tightened wrong. He is freedom rising, deathless from her pyre. He is valor, guarding still the desperate pass, or lone and erect on the shattered barricade, or a sentinel in the dangerous echoing night. He is the crown of the martyr burned in flame, and the glad resignation of the saint, and courage indifferent to the wounds of time, and the hero's might wrestling with death and fate. He is wisdom incarnate on a glorious throne, and the calm autocracy of the sage's rule. He is the high and solitary thought, aloof above the ignorant multitude. He is the prophet's voice, the sight of the seer. He is beauty, nectar of the passionate soul. He is the truth by which the spirit lives. He is the riches of the spiritual vast, poured out in healing streams on indigent life. He is eternity lured from hour to hour. He is infinity in a little space. He is immortality in the arms of death. These powers I am, and at my call they come. So the Madonna tells Savitri, these powers I am, and at my call they come. Thus slowly I lift man's soul nearer the light. But human mind clings to its ignorance, and to its littleness, the human heart, and to its right to grief, the earthly life. Only when eternity takes time by the hand, only when infinity weds the finite's thought, can man be free from himself and live with God. I bring, meanwhile, the gods upon the earth. I bring back hope to the despairing heart. I give peace to the humble and the great, and shed my grace on the foolish and the wise. I shall save earth, if earth consents to be saved. Then love shall at last unwounded tread earth's soil. Man's mind shall admit the sovereignty of truth, and body bear the immense descent of God. Here she stops speaking, the Madonna of light, and then she spoke, and from the ignorant nether plane a cry, a warped echo, naked and shuddering came, a voice of the sense-shackled human mind. A voice from where? Of the sense-shackled human mind. Sense-shackled means what? Sense-shackled, one that is totally under the shackle of the five senses. Sense-shackled mind. So, is unable to see more than what the eyes see, is unable to hear more than what the ears hear, is unable to taste anything but the earthly taste, not the ambrosia and nectar of the divine, and is unable to see anything but what is right in front of it, the material world. So the sense-shackled mind. A cry, a warped echo, naked and shuddering came, a voice of the sense-shackled human mind, and not any other mind, but human mind, carried its proud complaint of godlike power, hedged by the limits of a mortal's thoughts, bound in the chains of earthly ignorance. So this voice is the warped echo that replies back after the Madonna of light speaks. And this warped echo is the voice of the sense-shackled human mind, which is hedged by the limits of a mortal thought and bound in the chains of earthly ignorance. Imprisoned in his body and his brain. So imprisoned in what? His body and his brain. The mortal, that is the human being. The mortal cannot see God's mighty whole or share in his vast and deep identity, who stands unguessed within our ignorant hearts. So this mortal cannot see God's mighty whole, who also stands unguessed within our ignorant hearts. The divine within us, it cannot even see it within himself, leave alone outside or everywhere. Who stands unguessed within our ignorant hearts and knows all things because he is one with all. Man only sees the cosmic surfaces. Then, wondering what may lie hid from the sense, a little way he delves to depths below. But soon he stops. He cannot reach life's core or commune with the throbbing heart of things. He sees the naked body of the truth, though often baffled by her endless garbs. but cannot look upon her soul within. Then, furious for a knowledge absolute, he tears all details out and stabs and digs. Only the shape's contents he holds for use. The spirit escapes or dies beneath his knife. He sees as a blank stretch, a giant waste, the crowding riches of infinity. So he sees as a blank stretch, a giant waste, the crowding riches of infinity. The finite he has made is its central field. Its plan dissects, masters its processes. So man makes the finite, what is tangible, his center's field. What he does is dissects it. And you know what all the knowledge that we have, chemistry, science, geography, history, what are these? What is this knowledge? It is the outer knowledge. It is the lower knowledge. So that he has great mastery over. But the inner knowledge he has no idea about. Its plans dissects, masters its processes. That which moves all is hidden from his gaze. His poring eyes miss the unseen behind. He has the blind man's subtle, unerring touch, or the slow traveler's sight of distant scenes. The soul's revealing contacts are not his. Yet is he visited by intuitive light, and inspiration comes from the unknown. And yet, even though he is shackled, he is visited by some sort of intuitive light and inspiration that comes from the unknown. But only reason and sense he feels as sure. But he dismisses those and he feels no. Only what is his reason and sense, which he can sense, the five senses, that he feels as sure, and the rest he ignores. But only reason and sense he feels as sure. They only are his trusted witnesses. Thus is he balked, his splendid effort vain. His knowledge scans bright pebbles on the shore of the huge ocean of his ignorance. Yet grandiose were the accents of that cry. A cosmic pathos trembled in its tone. So now this warped echo speaks. Yet grandiose were the accents of that cry. A cosmic pathos trembled in its tone, he says now, the warped echo. I am the mind of God's great ignorant world, ascending to knowledge by the steps he made. So I am the mind. You can already see in the first sentence, which ego is this that is answering? Mental ego, the sattvic ego. I am the mind of God's great ignorant world, ascending to knowledge by the steps he made. I am the all-discovering thought of man. I am a God fettered by matter and sense, an animal prisoned in a fence of thorns, a beast of labor asking for his food, a smith tied to his anvil and his forge. Yet have I loosened the cord, enlarged my room. I have mapped the heavens and analyzed the stars, described their orbits through the grooves of space, measured the miles that separate the suns, computed their longevity in time. I have delved into earth's bowels and torn out the riches guarded by her dull brown soil. Each aspect of human endeavor, each aspect of human life is being described here. So what the first thing he does, he talks about how he is measured the stars, the astronomer, chemistry, biology, physics, and then he says it goes into geography and everything else. So every single aspect of human life. See, I have done all this. This how beautifully Sri Aurobindo writes. Can you imagine writing this in iambic pentameter in the most beautiful poetic form? And in one sentence, a whole sweep of knowledge is described. A whole sweep of the world is described. Yet have I loosened the cord, enlarged my room. I have mapped the heavens and analyzed the stars, described their orbits through the grooves of space, measured the miles that separate the suns, computed their longevity in time. I have delved into earth's bowels and torn out the riches guarded by her dull brown soil. I have classed the changes of her stony crust, and of her biography discovered the dates, rescued the pages of all nature's plan. The tree of evolution I have sketched, each branch and twig and leaf in its own place. In the embryo tract, the history of forms, and the genealogy framed of all that lives. I have detected plasm and cell and gene, the protozoa traced, man's ancestors, the humble originals from whom he rose. I know how he was born and how he dies. Only what end he serves, I know not yet. Or if there is aim at all, or any end, or push of rich, creative, purposeful joy in the wide works of the terrestrial power. I have caught her intricate processes, none is left. Her huge machinery is in my hands. I have seized the cosmic energies for my use. I have poured on her infinitesimal elements, and her invisible atoms have unmasked. All matter is a book I have perused. Who is saying this? The warped echo of the Madonna of Light, which is the mental ego. All matter is a book I have perused. Only some pages now are left to read. I have seen the ways of life, the paths of mind. I have studied the methods of the ant and ape, and the behavior learned of man and worm. If God is at work, his secrets I have found. But still the cause of things is left in doubt. Their truth flees from pursuit into a void. When all has been explained, nothing is known. What chose the process, whence the power sprang, I know not, and perhaps shall never know. A mystery is this mighty nature's birth. A mystery is the elusive stream of mind. A mystery the protean freak of life. What I have learned, chance leaps to contradict. What I have built is seized and torn by fate. So you can see this is a kind of almost a description of man. Because man being the highest evolutionary figure that is on earth, mind is embodied in man. And you can see how this mental ego so strongly controls us that we can very much identify with how humanity as a whole has been discovering, and then after each discovery, it comes back to the same uncertainty of not knowing the cause of things, not knowing the origin of things, not knowing how the earth was created, for what it was created, what is the purpose of this earth, what is the purpose of one's life even. One doesn't know, but one continues to find, dissect, explore, and imagine that one knows a lot, but one doesn't know the simplest things of life and the most basic. So this is the nature of mind, doesn't know. So if God is at work, his secrets I have found. But still, so the secrets of God I have found, that means all that God has created. Astronomy, mathematics, history, geography, botany, physics, chemistry, all of the secrets of the world, of how nature works is found. But what not found is, but still the cause of things is left in doubt. Their truth flees from pursuit into a void. When all has been explained, nothing is known. What chose the process? Whence the power sprang? I know not, and perhaps shall never know. A mystery is this mighty nature's birth. A mystery is the elusive stream of mind. A mystery the protein freak of life. What I have learnt, chance leaps to contradict. What I have built is seized and torn by fate. I can foresee the acts of matter's force, but not the march of the destiny of man. So I don't know what the destiny of man is. I can see. What can he see? The acts of matter's force, how matter works, force behind matter, and how it creates. But I cannot understand or see what is the destiny of man. He, that is man, he is driven upon paths he did not choose. He falls trampled underneath the rolling wheels. My great philosophies are a reasoned guess. My great philosophies are a reasoned guess. The mystic heavens that claim the human soul are a charlatanism of the imagining brain. All is a speculation or a dream. In the end, the world itself becomes a doubt. The infinitesimal's jest mocks mass and shape. A laugh peals from the infinite's finite mask. Perhaps the world is an error of our sight, a trick repeated in each flash of sense. An unreal mind hallucinates the soul with a stress vision of false reality, or a dance of Maya veils the void unborn. Even if a greater consciousness I could reach, what profit is it, then, for thought to win a real which is forever ineffable, or hunt to its lair the bodiless self, or make the unknowable the target of the soul? Nay, let me work within my mortal bounds, not live beyond life, nor think beyond the mind. You see, the majority of humanity, majority of us, think like this and live like this. And this is the mind's method, the mind's voice, which is dominant in man. Nay, let me work within my mortal bounds, nor live beyond life, nor think beyond the mind. Our smallness saves us from the infinite. In a frozen grandeur, lone and desolate, call me not to die the great eternal death. Left naked of my own humanity, in the chill vast of the spirit's boundlessness, each creature by its nature's limits lives. And how can one evade his native fate? Human I am, human let me remain, till in the inconscient I fall dumb and sleep. So this is the mind's proclivity, propensity. Human I am, human let me remain. And if you see the mental ego and the human ego, by and large, this is the way most human beings live their lives, and they feel that, look, I'm human, let me remain that. What is all this you're trying to do? Which dream are you trying to chase? And so on. And there's always some part of yourself that tells you this, even when you are trying to pursue something higher. There is a pull, a gravitational pull that pulls you down. This is the voice. So this is wonderful, the way that Sri Aurobindo has brought all these voices out of our different selves. The vital voice, the vital ego, the mental voice, the mental ego, the physical voice, the body's ego. And each part, the higher part in us and the lower part, brings us both into touch with the Madonna, which is the soul, which is the inner being, which is that part of us that is connected with the divine or with the infinite, and the lower ego that is connected with the evolutionary part in us which needs to evolve. So, in a frozen grandeur, lone and desolate, call me not to die the great eternal death. Left naked of my own humanity, in the chill vast of the spirit's boundlessness. So he says, please don't call me to die the great eternal death. Left naked of my own humanity, and don't let me give up, so that I give up my own humanity in the chill vast of the spirit's boundlessness. So it sees anything beyond its own small boundary as something very chilly and very difficult and very boundless and vast, you see. Each creature by its nature's limits lives. So it's saying each creature lives by whatever its nature has given it. Each creature by its nature's limits lives, and how can one evade his native fate? Human I am, human let me remain, till in the inconscient I fall dumb and sleep. A high insanity, a chimera is this, to think that God lives hidden in the clay. So then this mind is telling us. This is also our own warped ego. Something within us, whenever we try and go forward or go upward, pulls us down and says, what is this? This is a high insanity. This is just a dream. It's a mirage. A chimera is this. To think that God lives hidden in the clay. Can God actually be living in mud? Can God actually be living in matter? To think that God lives hidden in the clay, and that eternal truth can dwell in time. This is insanity to think like that. And that eternal truth can dwell in time and call to her to save ourself and world. How can man grow immortal and divine, transmuting the very stuff of which he is made? This wizard gods may dream, not thinking men. Person who has reason, has a high level of reason and logic, how can he think that man can go beyond himself and become a god? This only wizard gods can think, not thinking men, not reasonable, thoughtful, rational, logical man. It's not possible. Stupid, So only these mad gods can think like that, or some crazy souls. So, and Savitri heard the voice, the warped answer heard. So this is the end of it. He stops here. And then Savitri, the narrator is saying that Savitri heard the voice and also heard the warped echo, the answer heard. And turning to her being of light, she spoke. So then Savitri turns. She does not reply to the echo or to the warped echo. She turns to the Madonna of light, her being of light. Understand, these are all projections of her over soul, you can say. So she turns to her being of light, she spoke. Madonna of light, mother of joy and peace, thou art a portion of myself put forth. So she acknowledges that this Madonna of light, mother of joy and peace, is a portion of herself that has been put forth in creation and to do a particular work. Thou art a portion of myself put forth to raise the spirit to its forgotten heights and wake the soul by touches of the heavens. Because thou art, the soul draws near to God. Because thou art, love grows in spite of hate, and knowledge walks unslain in the pit of night. But not by showering heaven's golden rain upon the intellect's hard and rocky soil can the tree of paradise flower on earthly ground. But not by showering heaven's golden rain upon the intellect's hard and rocky soil can the tree of paradise flower on earthly ground, and the bird of paradise sit upon life's boughs, and the winds of paradise visit mortal air. Even if thou rain down intuition's rays, the mind of man will think it earth's own gleam. His spirit by spiritual ego sink. So even, she tells the Madonna of light, that even if you were to rain down intuition's rays, even then the mind of man will think it's its own gleam, the earth's own gleam, that it's coming from itself. It's not coming from a higher source. And his spirit by spiritual ego sink, or his soul dream shut in sainthood's brilliant cell, where only a brilliant shadow of God can come. His hunger for the eternal thou must nurse, and fill his yearning heart with heaven's fire, and bring God down into his body and life. So it's not enough that he goes into some sainthood's brilliant cell and develops a spiritual ego because he thinks that you are raining down this light onto him, this intuition's rays, this illumined light. Even if he were to do that, he would just get into some kind of a state of his own spiritual ego and stay there. Instead, what does she ask the Madonna saying? But where only his hunger, instead she says, let him hunger for the eternal, bring down, fill his yearning heart with heaven's fire, and bring God down into his body and life. So again she's asking that the soul, the Madonna of light, brings this God down into his body and life, not just into his mind. Because if it comes into his mind, the mind will capture this Godhead and think that it's the mind itself that is the God, and develop a spiritual ego and refuse to get out of its sainthood. So therefore it has to come into matter and into life before anything happens. So his hunger for the eternal thou must nurse, and fill his yearning heart with heaven's fire, and bring God down into his body and life. One day I will return his hand in mine, and thou shalt see the face of the Absolute. Then shall the holy marriage be achieved. Then shall the divine family be born. There shall be light and peace in all the worlds. One day I will return, his hand in mine, and thou shalt see the face of the Absolute. So she promises this Madonna that she will come back and bring, and with what? His hand in mine. And you will see the face of the Absolute, and then only will the holy marriage be achieved. Then shall the divine family be born. There shall be light and peace in all the worlds. So from there, she goes on. This is an intermediate plane of the inner soul forces that exist on their typal, plane. And Savitri then tells this to the Madonna of light, which is also a part of herself, that I will come back when I have hand of the Absolute and bring down the eternal back with me. So she goes on further and goes to the next canto, Canto 5, Finding of the Soul, onward she passed, seeking the soul's mystic cave. So obviously, she's still seeking for the soul, her own soul. This is not the soul that she's come to. The three triple forces and the three triple warped egos are the plane just before she finds her soul. And the soul is, of course, the psychic being and also the Atman, Jivatman, whatever you want to call it. And then from there, once she finds her soul, then she goes into the nirvana and the discovery of the all-negating absolute. And then from there she goes into discovery of the cosmic spirit and the cosmic consciousness. And then, of course, she has to go into the book of death. So basically, the finding of the soul is Savitri's journey. You saw when Sri Aurobindo was describing Ashwapati's journey, there was no finding of the soul. Where did Ashwapati, how did he move? Climbed up from the travelers of all the planes of the mind. So he went the ascending route, and there he found everything, and from there he obviously found his soul, but there are different routes to go. Savitri is going in the inner route, and Ashwapati went in the upward route, ascent, and she went within. So we'll read this next time.